So I get asked all the time the question, how did you guys get into this business? And, I have my story, and, I'd like for you to share your story on how we got into this.
Well, my first 10 years out of college, I was in the insurance business. I did life and health, property and casualty, disability, retirement insurance for 10 years. And I had the opportunity to purchase a small retail store that dealt strictly with clothing. It was men's clothing, some ladies' clothing, anything from suits to anything from suits to overalls, Levi blue jeans, things of that nature. And I was interested in the retail business because I had been in retail sales in high school and college. But then we purchased a small family-owned department store, and after a few years we noticed that we could not compete with the big boys like J.C. Penney and the other department stores, so we started specializing in suits and tuxedos. And we began that in 1984. And then, of course, you and Rachel came along to help in the business during your high school and college years as well.
So, but when did we? Because when you bought the company, it was called Kornman's Department Store from Mr. Kornman, businessman there in Madison for years and years. How did you decide that tuxedos and suits and all that? And then where did the name change come?
Well, decided to go strictly with suits and tuxedos because trying to compete with Levi jeans from retail stores that would buy thousands of pairs of those, where I could only buy a few dozen pair. From a financial standpoint, we could not compete with them.
Yeah.
So when you couldn't compete with them, best thing to do is just take a step back and look at what is feasible for a small company like ours. So we went strictly with tuxedos and suits, probably in the mid to early 90s. And
obviously we didn't own all of our inventory. What were some companies out there that we were sub-renting and wholesaling from?
We were wholesaling from Mitchell's Tuxedos, who later was bought out by a company called
anyway, After Hours maybe?
After Hours.
Yeah.
It was After Hours, and then they were bought out by another company.
Yeah.
So we also sub-rented from Gino's Formal Affair in Lexington, Kentucky, as well as Sam Myers in Louisville, Kentucky, Brashears in Jackson, Tennessee, and others, of course. And then we began to purchase our own inventory, probably in the mid to late 90s, and from there we have gone to our own warehouse of inventory.
Yeah, one of the cool things I remember was when you bought the company from Mr. Kornman, he had all these like 1970s tuxedos, these pastel, just crazy. Me and all my buddies in high school and college had a blast playing in those things and wearing those things and all that. And I know your employees that you had who were, high school students and all, when I was a kid, they all had a blast with those too. There was some good times.
Yeah, we had the light blue, the yellow, had some peach, had some light green, mint green, had them in tail coats as well as regular tuxedos. Some of them disappeared because of young folks who borrowed them and never returned them to wear to events at school. Others we sold at a large event that a radio station put on that we had been advertising with, and they asked all of their advertisers to bring something to the central location, which I think was the auditorium downtown, Municipal Auditorium, and we sold several of them at that event.
Huh.
And wish I had them back now.
Yeah, seriously. No doubt about that. So, okay. Well,
And
cool.
then, you know, we had that one location in Madison for 15 to 20 years. And then you came along, you said, Dad, I think it's time for us to open another location. So in 2000, we opened our second location in Murfreesboro. And then later on, our third location was in Bellevue, which we closed and moved to our Green Hills location, and our fourth location in Cool Springs, as well as this location in Berry Hill, where we have our inventory warehoused, and we have a retail location here as well.
Yeah. Well, it's been fun for sure, and we got a lot more years to go. I do.
I
You
hope
don't. Well, I hope you have a lot more years, just not having to work every day in this business.
Right.
So, but for sure. So, all right. Well,
And we want to keep growing.
that's all right. Absolutely. So I guess that's the story.